Each year at the Utah Envirthon, we have 4 stations that remain the same, but we have one station that changes each year, which is our current issue station. The current issue station is delivered from the National Canyon Envirothon each year to the states, and we provide study materials that will help you prepare for the current issue. Previous years' current issues have been topics such as wetlands, estuaries, range management, urban impacts on natural resource management, things like that. In addition to the current issue changing, each year our station captains will adapt their station to the current issue to address some questions to help incorporate the current issue into their scenarios, into their test. The oral presentation is also based on the current issue.
The purpose of the wildlife station is to have students learn about the native wildlife and wildlife ecology in the area of Utah, but also in the designated area for the tests. We start by introducing them to the native wildlife in the area, how to identify it, and how they interact in an ecosystem process. And then we talk more about ecology. So, are they predators? Are they herbivores? How does their native habitat impact their interactions with the ecosystem? And then we generally will incorporate that into whatever the current issue is for that year. So, for example, this year we discussed a lot about desert tortoise and native species. Just depending on the topic of that year, we can incorporate the native wildlife species of the area and their ecology and habitat management of that area. So usually when we come to the test station, I'll give about a 10-minute educational lecture about a topic. This year's topic was predator-prey adaptations and how they've evolved in the predator-prey game. And then they'll have an activity that exemplifies the 10-minute lecture that we gave them. And the information that's in that activity and the lessons that they learn is then incorporated into a 30-minute test. So that 30-minute test is both basic in that it's wildlife ID, what is the animal, what does the animal eat, but also wildlife ecology and habitat, what is the food web, how do you manage for that species, what are some special considerations for that species.
When the students come to the aquatic station, we talk about pollutants that are in the water or different things that could be in the water, what affects our water quality. We talk about the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the water, what we want to find in the water and what we don't want to find in the water. The students get a chance to test the water for various water quality parameters such as nitrates, dissolved oxygen, pH, temperature, and turbidity, and then interpret the results and see if the results are within what the state standards are and what they expect to find. And then they take a test and get to see what they've learned. A good way to prepare is there's a lot of information on our website, on the USU Water Quality Extension website, that talks about both all those different properties, physical, chemical, and biological. We have some publications on there that are really good. There's also the Division of Water Quality website, which is good to give information on the different parameters and what's good or bad about them, and how what we do on the land affects the water quality. We really like to, we do some graphs and things, and we like them to be able to interpret what they see, and so they can know off of what's being measured, they can know whether the water quality is good or bad.
When a student comes to the forestry test station at the Utah Envirthon, I run through a variety of different things with them. I spend about half of my time on ecology and tree identification. I bring a variety of samples with me, branches and cones, and usually line them up according to elevation on a table, with the lowest elevation at one hand and highest at the other, and go through the ecology and how each of the trees relate to each other, and explain a lot of the characteristics of the tree, how many needles it has, things like that, so that the students can identify each of the species by themselves. And often on my test, I'll have a couple of samples that I'll ask them to identify with similar samples. After going through the ecology and tree ID, I move over to another table and do tree measurement with them. Go over the forestry tools, variety of forestry tools, how they relate to each other, how you use them. I try to emphasize how the trigonometry that they learn in class is built right into the tools that I'm using out in the woods. One of the tools that we'll use and I will send home with students is a Biltmore stick. This is about a 100-year-old device that's made for measuring tree height and tree diameter, and you can also get tree board foot volume out of. And so as part of the forestry test station, I'll make sure each of the kids is competent at measuring tree diameter with a Biltmore stick and tree height, and then I show them how to evaluate and come up with total tree volume using one of these sticks, and then we run into the test. The best ways to prepare for the Envirothon is be familiar with the different species, the native species. We only have 15 or so native tree species in our forest, the different pines, firs, and spruces and such. So that's not too much to jump into. A familiarity with the internet, you can find most of these forestry tools pretty easily. So just knowing what they are and what they're used for and how they're used. And then same thing with the Biltmore stick on our forestry extension website, USU Extension Forestry. We have explanations on how to use a Biltmore stick, and I'd be happy to send any teachers Biltmore sticks in advance if they would like some.
When the kids come to the soil station, they are given some information about the formative processes, the way that soils are developed all the way from the rock to the soil in the valley. We give them some information about soil properties, both the physical and the chemical. And depending on what their scenario is, at the Envirothon we have to adapt the soils presentation to accommodate that scenario. In this case, for this year, we had to let them know a little bit about how wetland is used as a filter for pollution control. Wetland soils were then a factor. We gave them some information a little bit about how to tell if a soil is hydric or not. How do we know if the area is wetland or not? All of these things were discussed a little bit at the soil station this year. And then they take a test with the 25-minute presentation that they get at the soil station. They also get another 25 minutes to take the test. And for the soils part, some of that has to come from reference material. We give them that reference material pertaining to the soil mapping that's here at the site, the limitations for various uses for that particular soil according to the Web Soil Survey. All of that information is given to them as a handout. We don't have to address that in the presentation. So we can focus on questions if they have any other particular interests that they might have, and as much as they want on the scenario. They generally go away with a mix of information on soils in general and a little bit about soils pertaining to their scenario.
Each year, the current issue dictates our location in the state. For example, this year was Zion Park to study the impact of water quality and non-point source pollution on low-impact developments. And in previous years, we've been at places such as the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge to study estuaries.